Welcome to 10-Minute IELTS. Today, we'll be tackling grammar, specifically Subject-Verb Agreement. This is one of the most basic rules that states if the subject is singular, the verb must be in the singular form. And if the subject is plural, the verb must be in the plural form. To give you an example, if the subject is they or he, then the verb must be is instead of are, since is the singular form and are is the plural form. So let's say he is here. The correct answer would be is. But if you are going to use a plural subject such as they, then the correct form isn't is, but are. And so we use are, which is the plural form of the verb. Now that's very basic and simple, but it does get a bit trickier when you start changing the rule a bit in terms of the subject we're identifying. For example, he, the boy who is one of the students is or are going to school. Now, remember that it is subject-verb agreement. And that means to say that the verb must only agree with the subject. In this long part before the verb, we need to identify what the subject is. Is the subject students or is the subject boy? The easy way to check is to identify what is the whole sentence talking about. And besides, if you remember from the first video on grammar in terms of sentence structures, the subject usually comes at the beginning. It's the first part of the sentence. So this means to say that the subject must be boy. Once you've identified the subject, go ahead and remove the other parts that are not involved or part of the subject to identify, is it more accurate to say the boy is going to school or the boy are going to school? Sometimes it's just a matter of whichever sounds right. In this case, it's obvious that the boy is going to school is more accurate. That way, even if we include the clause after it, we could just say, the boy who is one of the students is going to school. I hope that was easy enough. Remember that the subject comes at the first part of a sentence, even if the subject seems like this. The students who are grouped into one class are going home. Let's look at that sentence again. The students who are grouped into one class. So take note, if we say one class, it could be one class is going home, but is one class really the subject? Is it at the beginning of the sentence? Since it's not at the beginning of the sentence, I doubt this is the actual sentence subject. And so we look at the other word or noun at the beginning, which is the students. Now remember what I said. Once you've identified the subject, ignore all the other words that come after it. And then identify, is it more accurate to say the students is or the students are? In this case, it's more accurate to say the students are. So that when we choose the linking verb, it should be the students who are grouped into one class are going home. That's still simple enough, though it can get a bit more trickier when you talk about quantities as a whole. For example, one of the sheep is or are missing. Now remember, we have to identify the subject, and it says here that the sheep seems to be the only noun we're identifying. So this is the subject. So the sheep is missing or the sheep are missing. It sounds like the sheep are missing is correct, but take a look at the identifier. Usually we have a quantifier or a word that tells us how many of the subject exists. And it says one. of the sheep, meaning to say one is or are missing. I think one is missing would be the correct answer. But it will now be different if we say many of the sheep is or are missing. Now take note, the subject is still sheep just like a while ago, but the quantifier or amount has changed. Instead of just having one, there are now many sheep missing. And since there are many, the correct linking verb is no longer is, but are. So let's read those two again. One of the sheep is missing, and many of the sheep are missing. This is a common rule. Whenever you see one of, the verb is always singular. That's a hard rule that always has to exist. Now, this can get a bit confusing with the other type of quantifier. Let's take this out a bit for more space and compare that to a number of sheep is or are missing. Now, it says here sheep is still the subject, but now we're talking about a number. And the question is a number a lot or just one? When we talk about a number, this is a paraphrase for a lot, a variety, a good amount, or let's say a few, or let's just say myriad, etc., etc. That's meaning to say that if a lot of sheep are missing, a variety of sheep are missing, a good many are missing, a few are missing, then I guess it follows that a number of sheep are missing also, since a number is just a paraphrase of a lot. I hope that you will not be confused with the article a. Remember, a number means a lot or many. Let's compare that to this other statement. The number of people in this room is or are a lot. Is the subject people or is the subject the number? What are we really talking about? The number or the people? Remember that the article the is a very special article that points specifically to the subject number, and so the real subject is the number, whatever number that is. Whether it's 5, 10, or 100, we're talking about the number, not the people. So the number is a lot or are a lot? I think the number is a lot. Remember, the rule is we remove whatever is not part of the subject so that it's easier to identify the verb. So the number are a lot doesn't sound right. The number is a lot sounds better. So that's my quick tip. Always take out whatever isn't the subject before the linking verb to make it easier to identify. There are some subjects that can be a bit trickier though, since this rule doesn't work for that. For example, cooking is or are fun. This is what we call a gerund, which is a verb that has ing. Whenever you see ing plus a verb, the subject is always singular, therefore the verb should be singular also. So running is fun, cooking is fun, singing is fun also. Never say running are fun, cooking are fun, singing are fun. This is also the same rule when we talk about adjectives as subjects. For example, the rich is or are donating to the poor. Should I say the rich are donating to the poor or the rich is donating to the poor? The rule with subjects that are adjectives initially is that we will always use the plural form. So the rich are donating to the poor. For example, the beautiful are coming to the party. Another one would be the reckless drivers are going too fast. It says here that there's an S in the subject, so it's easy to identify that the word is are, but if I remove that, then the reckless is or the reckless are. Again, remember, if it's an adjective, the verb should always be plural. The beautiful is or the beautiful are. Since beautiful is an adjective used as a subject, then the verb is against are. So, those are my 10 minutes. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck with your review, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can also send me an email if you have any questions at 10minuteielts@gmail.com. And remember that I'm also open to online coaching. Just click on the link in the description below.